What happens when one of the most anticipated morning television interviews collapses into a full-blown catastrophe before anyone even realizes what's happening? In just 36 seconds, a routine opening question detonates into the most shocking on-air meltdown daytime TV has ever seen. This is the story of how a calm, polished, perfectly planned interview spiraled into chaos. Savannah Guthrie sat poised in her chair that morning, expecting nothing more than a straightforward conversation. The studio lights glowed warmly, cameras rolled, and millions tuned in across the country for what was supposed to be a gentle discussion about charity work and upcoming projects. Nothing controversial, nothing difficult. Just a pleasant morning segment no one could have imagined. What was about to unfold? Meghan Markle stepped onto the set with quiet confidence, settling into the guest chair across from Savannah. The two shared warm smiles for the cameras, everything appearing perfectly normal. Savannah began with an easy, welcoming question about Meghan's philanthropic efforts. "Thank you for being here this morning. I know our viewers are excited to hear about the work you've been doing. Can you tell us about your latest charity initiative?" Meghan shifted, her expression tightening just slightly. "Well, Savannah, I think the real question is why the media keeps focusing on what I'm doing instead of the systemic issues I'm trying to highlight." Savannah didn't flinch. She nodded, staying composed. "Of course, and we absolutely want to talk about those issues. That's why we invited you here. Maybe you could walk us through the specific challenges you're addressing." "I don't think you actually want to talk about them," Meghan replied, her tone sharpening. "This is what always happens. The media pretends to care, then twists everything I say." A ripple of tension rolled through the studio. Savannah kept her voice calm. "I can assure you, we're here to have an honest conversation. Our viewers want to hear directly from you. That's the purpose of today." Meghan leaned back, folding her arms. "That's what they all say. And then the headlines come out. Same story. Always trying to make me look like the problem." Savannah inhaled, slowly trying to steer the segment back on course. "I understand you've had difficult experiences with coverage. Many public figures do. But we really would like to focus on the impact you're making. The work you're doing is reaching a lot of people. Can we talk about that? You see?" "This is exactly the problem," Meghan said, her voice rising. "You're trying to direct the narrative, trying to choose what I'm allowed to discuss." Camera operators exchanged uneasy glances. This was slipping fast. "I'm not trying to control anything," Savannah replied evenly. "I'm trying to have a conversation. You're our guest. We value your perspective. Tell us, what would you like to discuss?" "What I'd like," Meghan said, "is for people to stop pretending they understand what I've been through. You sit here in your comfortable studio, asking your comfortable questions. You have no idea." A flicker of surprise touched Savannah's face, but she stayed steady. "You're right, I haven't walked in your shoes. That's why we're here, so you can share your experience. Help viewers understand." Abruptly, Meghan stood up, microphone still attached. "This is pointless. This is exactly what I expected. Nobody listens." The production team froze. Live TV had no emergency script for this. Savannah rose too, her voice firm yet controlled. "I am listening. Everyone watching is listening. But this has to be a two-way conversation. If you'll sit back down, we can continue discussing anything you'd like. A two-way conversation." Meghan let out a bitter laugh. "That's rich. You invite me here with your list of pre-approved questions and call that a conversation." "We suggested topics," Savannah replied after a measured pause. "That's standard for any interview. But you're free to talk about what matters to you. That's why you're here." "I'm here because your producers begged my team for weeks," Meghan snapped. "And now I see why I should have said no." The studio audience sat stone silent. None of this was the wholesome morning content they came for. Savannah remained unshaken. "I'm sorry you feel that way. Truly, our intention was to give you a platform to highlight the causes you care about. If that wasn't clear, then I do apologize." "There you go again," Meghan said, pointing sharply at her. "Apologizing for things you don't mean. Saying what sounds good for the cameras." Savannah's patience was being tested, but she refused to break. "I do mean it. I'm apologizing because you're clearly uncomfortable, and that was never our goal. We invited you in good faith." "Good faith?" Meghan's voice climbed higher. "Don't talk to me about good faith. The media has destroyed my reputation." Meghan fired back, her voice cracking with fury. "Twisted my words, made my life unbearable, and now you want to sit here and lecture me about good faith." The camera crew kept rolling. They knew exactly what they were capturing. A train wreck. A moment destined for viral infamy. A disaster no one could look away from. Savannah spoke slowly, deliberately, every word chosen like she was diffusing a bomb. "I'm not lecturing you. I'm trying to understand your concerns. If you feel the media has treated you unfairly, this is your chance to set the record straight. That's what we're offering you." "I don't need you to offer me anything," Meghan snapped. "I don't need your platform. I don't need your fake sympathy. And I certainly don't need to be patronized by someone who thinks reading a teleprompter makes them a journalist." The insult detonated in the air, sharp and merciless. Savannah's face remained neutral, but her jaw tightened barely. "I've been a journalist for over 20 years, she said softly. "I've covered wars, natural disasters, elections, countless human stories. I take my work seriously, and I treat every guest with respect." She paused, her voice steady. "I'm asking for that same respect in return." Meghan waved her off like the words were smoke in the air. "Respect? You want to talk about respect? Where was my respect when your network ran story after story about me without checking facts? Where was my respect when headlines mocked my clothes, my family, my entire identity?" Savannah didn't flinch. "I can't speak for every story ever published," she replied. "I can only speak for this moment right here, between you and me, and I'm doing everything I can to be respectful and fair." "Your best isn't good enough," Meghan said coldly. "None of this is good enough. The whole system is broken and you're all part of it." In the control room, producers hovered over the switch to cut to commercial, their fingers trembling. No one wanted to be the one responsible for ending this moment. Savannah inhaled deeply. "If you feel that strongly, then help us understand. What would better coverage look like? What do you want to be asked? What conversation would feel meaningful to you?" "You still don't get it," Meghan said, shaking her head. "I'm not here to teach you how to do your job. I'm not here to fix journalism. Honestly." She glanced around the studio. "I'm not even sure why I'm here anymore." Savannah cast a brief look toward the camera, then back to Meghan. "You're here because we hope to have a productive conversation. That offer still stands. Please sit down. Let's start over." Meghan didn't budge. Her arms remained crossed like armor. "Start over so you can ask more shallow questions while pretending to care. So your viewers can nod along like they suddenly understand me." "No, I'm done with that. I'm genuinely trying to give you space to share your truth," Savannah insisted. "That's been my goal from the beginning. Your words, your perspective, my truth." Meghan laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "You wouldn't know what to do with my truth. You'd twist it, clip it, package it into clickbait. That's all that ever happens." Savannah stood her ground. "We're live. There is no editing, no spin. What you say goes straight to millions of people, unfiltered. That's the beauty of live television. The beauty." Meghan repeated, voice dripping with mockery. "Is that what you call this? Because from where I'm standing, this feels like an ambush. This is not an ambush, Savannah replied firmly. An ambush would mean attacking you with gotcha questions. I haven't done that. I've tried over and over to create space for real dialogue. Meghan's expression hardened into something cold. You and everyone like you are the problem. You sit there with your perfect hair and your perfect smile, pretending to be everyone's friend. Then you stab them in the back the second the cameras stop rolling. Savannah straightened, her voice calm but resolute. I have never stabbed anyone in the back. I report news fairly. I interview guests with integrity. And I do not deserve to be spoken to this way. Oh, here it comes, Meghan said, rolling her eyes. Now you're the victim. Classic. She stepped closer. I try to have a real conversation, and somehow I'm the villain. No one said you're the villain, Savannah replied. But you've been hostile since the start. I've tried to accommodate your concerns. I've tried to redirect. I've tried to understand. At some point, there has to be mutual respect. Meghan stepped closer to Savannah's desk, her voice sharp as glass. Mutual respect. That's hilarious coming from someone who works for a network that's published hundreds of negative stories about me. Where was the respect then? Savannah didn't look away. I don't write those stories. I don't control those headlines. I can only control how I behave. And I am doing everything I can to be fair to you right now. Fair? Meghan scoffed. You don't even know what that word means. None of you do. You're all part of the same machine grinding people down for ratings. The air felt heavy, suffocating. Savannah held firm. I'm sorry you feel that way, truly, but I can't continue if you're going to insult me and question my integrity. I've treated you with nothing but courtesy. Courtesy. Meghan shot back. Inviting me here just so you can look good. Boost your ratings. That's not courtesy. She leaned in, voice low and scalding. That's exploitation. Savannah's expression finally cracked just a hairline fracture of frustration beneath the professionalism. You agreed to come here, she said quietly. Your team reached out to us. No one forced you to sit in that chair. You made that choice. And now I'm making another one, Meghan shot back. I'm choosing to leave. Because this, she gestured broadly at the cameras, the lights, the stunned faces around her. This toxic environment is exactly what I was trying to get away from. You people never change. She reached up and unclipped her microphone with a sharp snap. The static thud echoing across the studio. Savannah took one final breath, one final attempt. Please don't leave like this. We can take a break, regroup, start fresh. You came here to talk about important issues. Don't let this moment bury that message. Meghan dropped the mic onto the guest chair. It bounced once before settling, the sound harsh in the silence. My message is perfectly clear, she said. The media is broken, and you're all complicit. I'm done being part of this circus. I respect your right to leave, Savannah responded, her voice steady despite the emotional wreckage around her. But I want to be clear for our viewers. We invited you in good faith. We prepared thoughtful questions. We offered you space to speak. What happened today? That was your choice. Meghan spun around, eyes flashing. My choice. You're already spinning it, aren't you? Already figuring out how to make me look unreasonable, unstable, whatever fits the narrative. Go ahead, say whatever you want. You will anyway. I'm not spinning anything, Savannah replied, her voice firm. I'm stating facts. We wanted a positive, meaningful conversation. It didn't go that way. And our viewers watched everything unfold. They can decide for themselves. Of course they can, Meghan said, her voice icy. And you'll help them along, won't you? With your commentary, your tone. Your subtle little reactions. That's how it works. Savannah didn't rise to the bait. I'm simply going to report what happened. Nothing more. Meghan let out a hollow, bitter laugh. Sure you will. I'll tune in later just to see how fair and balanced your version is. Her heels clicked across the studio floor, each step a punctuation mark. She reached the exit. The door is always open if you change your mind, Savannah called after her. We would be happy to have you back for a real conversation. Meghan paused at the door, looking back one last time, eyes burning. A real conversation. With people like you. Impossible. You don't want real conversations. You want sound bites, drama, controversy. A cold, humorless smirk crossed her face. Well, congratulations. You got your drama. And with that, she walked out. The studio door slamming softly behind her. For a long moment, the studio was utterly silent except for the hum of the cameras still rolling. Savannah returned to her chair slowly, smoothing the front of her blazer, gathering herself. She sat upright, centered, poised unshaken on the surface, even though the moment had been seismic. She looked directly into the camera. Well, she began. Her voice remarkably steady, that clearly did not go as planned. A controlled exhale. We hoped to have a meaningful discussion today about charitable work, about public life, about the pressures that come with being in the spotlight. Unfortunately, as you all just witnessed, the conversation took a different turn. She paused, her tone firm but composed. For clarity, we invited our guest here with the best of intentions. Our questions were prepared with respect and genuine curiosity. We wanted to give her a platform to share her voice. What you saw was exactly what happened. No editing. No manipulation. Live television at its most raw and unfiltered. A hint of disappointment crossed her face, tempered with resolve. As journalists, we face difficult moments. We do our best to navigate them with grace and professionalism. I believe I did that today. I remained respectful even when I was being personally attacked. I offered multiple opportunities to reset, to redirect. I tried to create space for dialogue. She took another breath. But sometimes, despite our best efforts, things don't go the way we hope. That's part of the job. What matters is integrity, treating people fairly, and being honest with our audience about what unfolds. The crew stayed absolutely still, letting her speak. I stand behind everything I said. I stand behind the questions we prepared. And I stand behind how I conducted myself. She sat up a little straighter, reclaiming the space with quiet authority. Now, she said, we'll take a brief break. We'll be right back. The camera slowly pulled away as the screen faded to black, and I want to thank our viewers for sticking with us through that very unexpected moment. Savannah glanced down at her notes, then looked back up into the lens with calm steadiness. Live television can be unpredictable. Sometimes it's magical. Sometimes it's messy. Today was messy, but it was real. And I do believe there's value in that authenticity. You all saw what happened in real time. No filters. No edits. Her tone softened, regret flickering just briefly across her features. I genuinely wish things had gone differently. I wish we'd had the opportunity to focus on the charitable initiatives and the important issues we'd planned to discuss. I wish our guest had felt comfortable enough to have that conversation. But for whatever reason, that wasn't possible today. Savannah straightened her papers with quiet precision, as if grounding herself. We'll continue with the rest of our show as planned. We have some wonderful segments ahead, and I hope you'll stay with us. Thank you for your understanding and for being part of this moment with us, however uncomfortable it may have been. She kept her posture impeccable, every movement controlled. A true professional navigating an impossible situation with grace. The camera pulled back. The empty guest chair. The microphone left abandoned. Savannah, alone at the desk, steady as ever, ready to move forward. Behind the scenes, the control room was a storm of whispered disbelief. Producers on headsets. Calls to network executives already underway. Social media spiraling into a frenzy. News outlets racing to prepare their coverage. But none of that touched Savannah on air. She transitioned seamlessly into the next segment, voice, unwavering, professionalism intact. She had weathered a public confrontation with calm dignity, never once lowering herself to the hostility directed at her. That empty chair said more than any commentary could. A simple interview had transformed into one of the most dramatic moments in morning television history. Yet through it all, Savannah remained composed, respectful, and indisputably professional. She did her job exactly as it ought to be done, even when her guest chose a very different path. And the contrast? It could not have been clearer. The studio lights still glowed. The cameras still rolled. And the show went on, because that is what true professionals do. They handle the unexpected with poise. They do not lash out. They do not escalate. They steady the ship. Savannah had proven that. In the face of hostility, she stayed kind. In the face of insults, she stayed professional. In the face of chaos, she stayed calm. One woman had come prepared for a conversation, trying again and again to salvage the moment. The other had arrived ready for confrontation, uninterested in dialogue. And when the segment finally ended, one truth was unmistakable. This moment would be replayed, dissected, and discussed for years, not because of what was supposed to be said, but because of how spectacularly an interview can fall apart when one person refuses to engage in good faith. Savannah had offered every olive branch, every chance to restart, every path back to a meaningful discussion. Each one met with hostility. In the end, viewers witnessed something rare, a masterclass in professionalism under fire. Savannah showed exactly how a journalist should respond when put in an impossible position, with grace, with dignity, with unwavering integrity. The empty chair remained quiet, stark, symbolic. A reminder that sometimes, no matter how prepared you are or how professional you remain, a conversation simply cannot happen. And when that happens, all you can do is handle yourself with class and move forward. That is exactly what Savannah did. She met an unprecedented moment with remarkable composure, never once descending to personal attacks. She took the high road every single time, and that made all the